Tampa Bay. For the past 5 years, it wasn't just a place, it was the place. A sun-drenched promised land on Florida's Gulf Coast. It was the championship city, Tampa Bay, home of the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers and the Stanley Cup winning Lightning. It was the destination for a great American migration, as a tidal wave of remote workers, young professionals, and families fled the cold, expensive cities of the North for a new life of sunshine, opportunity, and waterfront living. The real estate market became a gold rush. Homes were selling in hours, not days, with dozens of offers all over the asking price. Bidding wars became the norm. Developers raced to break ground on gleaming condo towers and sprawling suburban communities. Tampa Bay was no longer Florida's sleepy cousin. It was the hottest destination in the country, a symbol of explosive growth and limitless potential. But in paradise, the higher you fly, the harder you can fall. The relentless music of the boom has faded, replaced by a deafening silence. Now, a different set of words haunts the market. Sitting days, price cuts, uninsurable. The very forces that fueled Tampa Bay's meteoric rise are now converging to create the perfect storm. The question on everyone's mind, from homeowners and realtors to the new arrivals who bought at the peak, is a terrifying one. Is this just a silent, healthy shift back to normal? Or is the Tampa Bay housing market on the verge of an incoming freefall? The gold rush. How we got here, to understand the danger, we must first understand the mania. The post-2020 migration to Tampa Bay was no accident. It was the culmination of decades of steady growth, supercharged by the pandemic. The rise of remote work was the spark. Suddenly, millions of Americans were untethered from their physical offices in high-cost cities like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. They looked at a map and saw a place with no state income tax, relatively affordable housing at the time, and year-round beach weather. Tampa Bay became their beacon. The result was a demographic and economic explosion. In 2021 and 2022, the region consistently ranked as one of the top moving destinations in the United States. And with this flood of new residents came a flood of new money. Home prices surged at a rate that was simply unsustainable. In just 2 years, the median home price in the Tampa metro area shot up by over 50%. A modest 3-bedroom home in a St. Petersburg neighborhood that was $250,000 in 2019 was suddenly selling for $450,000 in 2022, with multiple cash offers driving the price even higher. This euphoria created a feedback loop. Speculators and investors, from Wall Street giants to amateur Airbnb hosts, poured into the market, convinced that the growth would never end. Developers, seeing endless demand, launched ambitious new projects, from the multi-billion-dollar Water Street revitalization in downtown Tampa to a forest of luxury condo towers in St. Petersburg. For a moment, it seemed like the sky was the limit. The uninsurable coast, the first and deepest crack. But every boom has a weakness, and in Tampa Bay, that weakness is 100 years in the making. The region is often called the luckiest place in Florida. It has not suffered a direct hit from a major hurricane since 1921. This incredible century-long lucky streak bred a dangerous sense of complacency. But luck is not a strategy, and the insurance industry, reeling from billions in losses across the rest of the state, has stopped betting on it. Meteorologists and risk modelers will tell you that the Tampa Bay area is perhaps the single most vulnerable metropolitan region in the United States to catastrophic storm surge. The shallow waters of the Gulf of Mexico and the funnel-like shape of the bay itself are a recipe for a devastating wall of water. A direct hit from a major storm could push a surge of 15 to 20 feet into downtown Tampa and St. Petersburg, causing a level of destruction that would make Hurricane Ian look like a dress rehearsal. This story is not an outlier. It is the new normal. Private insurers are fleeing the region. Homeowners are being dropped by their longtime carriers and are forced onto the state-run insurer of last resort, Citizens, where coverage is often worse and still incredibly expensive. This isn't just an inconvenience. It is a fundamental threat to the real estate market. A home that is uninsurable or so expensive to insure that the monthly payment becomes unaffordable is a home that cannot be sold. This insurance crisis has become a financial time bomb, silently ticking under every property in the Bay Area. The affordability chasm, a tale of two Tampas. The second major crack in the foundation is the ever-widening chasm between the cost of housing and the wages of the people who actually live and work here. The flood of out-of-state cash and remote work salaries completely detach local home prices from local incomes. The economy of Tampa Bay is still heavily reliant on tourism, hospitality, healthcare, and retail, sectors not known for high wages. While the region has made strides in attracting tech and finance jobs, the median household income has simply not kept pace with the explosion in housing costs. This has created a phenomenon known as drive till you qualify. First-time homebuyers and working families are being pushed further and further out, from the desirable neighborhoods of South Tampa and St. Petersburg to the far-flung exurbs of Pasco, Hernando, and Polk counties. This creates punishing commutes and strains local infrastructure. It also creates a hollow core. A city cannot function without its teachers, its nurses, its firefighters, its restaurant workers. When the people who provide the essential services of a community can no longer afford to live in it, the community itself begins to break down. The affordability crisis isn't just pricing people out of homes, it's pricing them out of the Tampa Bay dream entirely, creating a fragile, transient economy built on a workforce that is perpetually squeezed. The glut of glass, the overbuilding problem. During the euphoric peak of the boom, developers saw a market with infinite demand. The response was a building frenzy of historic proportions. In downtown Tampa, the skyline was remade by the Water Street Project, a $3.5 billion development that added millions of square feet of luxury apartments, offices, and hotels. Across the bay in St. Petersburg, a similar story unfolded, with a dozen new luxury condo towers, either completed or under construction, promising a new era of upscale urban living. But now the boom is over, and a terrifying question hangs over these gleaming towers of glass and steel. Who is going to live in them? These projects were conceived and financed in a world of 3% mortgage rates and a seemingly endless stream of wealthy out-of-state buyers. We now live in a world of 7% mortgage rates and a nervous, cautious market. The signs of a glut are everywhere. In many of these new buildings, a significant percentage of units remain unsold months or even years after completion. The rental market for these luxury units is also becoming saturated, forcing landlords to offer concessions like 1 or 2 months of free rent to attract tenants. This oversupply at the high end has a ripple effect, putting downward pressure on the entire market. The cranes in the sky, once a symbol of prosperity, now look more like a warning sign of a market that built too much, too fast, for a party that has already ended. The silent shift, the case for a soft landing. A free fall? No, that's just fear-mongering. What we are seeing is a healthy and, frankly, a necessary correction. The pace of 2021 was never sustainable. This is a normalization. The fundamentals of Tampa Bay are still incredibly strong. We have major corporate relocations, a diverse job market, and people are still moving here every single day. Yes, inventory is up, but that's a good thing. It gives buyers choices again. It's a return to a balanced market, not a crash. This is the argument for a silent shift. Proponents of this view will point out that despite the recent slowdown, Tampa Bay is still a desirable place to live. Its population continues to grow, albeit at a slower pace, and compared to major markets in California or the Northeast, it is still relatively affordable. They argue that the influx of new businesses and the continued quality of life will create a floor for the market, preventing a catastrophic 2008-style collapse. They see this not as a free fall, but as the market taking a much-needed breath after a frantic sprint. For them, the long-term story of Tampa Bay's growth remains intact. The free fall indicators, why this time is different. But the evidence for something more severe is mounting, and it goes beyond just rising inventory. The key difference between now and previous slowdowns is the insurance crisis. It is a structural rot that has no historical precedent. It fundamentally changes the math of home ownership in a way that simple market cycles do not. Then there is the concept of shadow inventory. Millions of homeowners in Tampa Bay are currently locked into mortgages with interest rates of 3% or 4%. They are sitting in golden handcuffs. They may want to move, to downsize, to upsize for a new job, but they can't afford to because a new home would mean a new mortgage at 7%. This is artificially suppressing the number of homes on the market. What happens when these people are forced to sell due to a job loss, a divorce, a death in the family, or an insurance premium that becomes truly unbearable? Many experts believe a huge wave of inventory is waiting in the wings, ready to flood the market the moment economic conditions worsen. The confluence of factors is what's so concerning. You have an affordability crisis limiting demand from the bottom. You have an oversupply of luxury units limiting demand from the top. And you have an insurance crisis that is a tax on every single property owner with no end in sight. This isn't a normal correction. The system is fundamentally broken. The condo contagion, a crisis within a crisis. As if the market didn't have enough problems, a uniquely Floridian crisis is brewing, and Tampa Bay is particularly exposed. The condo contagion. The tragic collapse of the Champlain Towers South in Surfside was a horrifying wake-up call, revealing the dangers of deferred maintenance and aging infrastructure in coastal buildings. In response, Florida passed new laws requiring condo associations to conduct stringent structural integrity studies and to fully fund their reserves for future repairs. This is a necessary safety measure, but it is a financial hydrogen bomb for thousands of condo owners. Many of Tampa Bay's iconic beach communities, from Clearwater Beach down to St. Pete Beach, are lined with condo buildings from the 1970s and 80s. These buildings are now facing the reality of needing millions of dollars in concrete restoration, roof replacements, and structural work. Owners in these buildings are being hit with massive, often six-figure, special assessments that they are required to pay. For a retiree on a fixed income, an unexpected bill for $100,000 is a death sentence for their financial security. This is forcing a wave of panic selling in the condo market. But who wants to buy a unit that comes with a massive, immediate bill? This condo crisis is a fire within a fire, threatening to incinerate the value of tens of thousands of properties and creating a contagion of fear that is spreading throughout the entire market. The ghost of 2008. Are we doomed to repeat it? For anyone who lived through the last great housing crash, the current situation feels eerily familiar. Once again, Florida, and specifically Tampa Bay, was at the heart of a speculative frenzy. Once again, prices became completely detached from fundamentals. So are we simply doomed to repeat the nightmare of 2008? There are crucial differences. Unlike the subprime mortgage era, most homeowners today have significant equity in their homes and stronger credit profiles. The rampant fraud and no-doc loans that defined the last bubble are not present today. This is the primary argument against the 2008-style foreclosure crisis. However, there is a new and perhaps more insidious problem. The insurance crisis acts as a de facto subprime loan. A family might have qualified for their mortgage at a 3% interest rate, but when their insurance bill triples, their total monthly housing cost skyrockets, putting them under the same financial stress as if they had a high-interest, adjustable-rate mortgage. They are being priced out of the home they already own. So while we may not see a wave of foreclosures identical to 2008, we may be on the verge of a wave of insurance-forced sales. The end result could be the same: a flood of desperate sellers hitting a market with no buyers, leading to a rapid and painful decline in prices. So is the Tampa Bay housing market in a silent shift or an incoming freefall? The optimistic view points to strong fundamentals and a necessary return to balance. But the weight of the evidence, the unprecedented insurance crisis, the crushing affordability gap, the glut of new construction, the condo contagion, and the looming threat of a century-overdue hurricane points to something far more precarious. The free fall may not be a sudden, dramatic crash like in 2008. It may be a slow, grinding descent, a prolonged period of declining values and market paralysis as the true cost of living in this beautiful but vulnerable paradise is finally priced in. The Tampa Bay dream isn't dead, but it is being reevaluated. And for the thousands who bought at the peak and the millions who call this place home, the coming years will be a test of financial and emotional resilience. The silent shift is over. The question now is, how far is the fall? Do you live in the Tampa Bay area? What has your experience been with the housing and insurance market? We want to hear your story in the comments below. If you found this investigation insightful, please like this video, subscribe for more in-depth analysis of the issues that matter, and share it. This is a conversation that is vital to the future of one of America's most important regions.